Morning everybody. Just getting the staff sorted for this morning's live lesson. I think it's safe to say we can expect this morning to be slightly chaotic. Never work with children and animals. It's Missy and Suki just chilling out here. Morning Sally. Quite glad to be inside today. And we'll just get going in just a minute and give people a chance to turn up. I'm a bit early and just sorting my stuff out. I'm not taking a swig of coffee because last time it put the image of that out of the title of the video, which we actually need to change. Oh, right, so hello, I'm here. Plan of attack this morning then is we're going to have a little look at the incubator. We're going to have a little look at, no Missy, don't go on the saddle. Children and animals, come here. There we go. We're going to have a little look at the hens, and we're going to have a little look at the cheeping chicks over there. But I thought what we start off with is looking at what this process is that we're doing at the moment. The whole point of education, the whole point of the exercise, I suppose, is looking at, just let me move that camera, there we go, looking at incubation and what it's all about. And so I've got one of the little incubators. These are the ones that we use most often in schools, and we'll have a little look at this and how this works, and then we'll have a little look at the hens and how they work. Not going to cause too much trouble. Okay, Missy Moo. Missy Moo can come and join in. She can help out this morning. So the incubator does, yes, well done Missy, does two main things then when we're incubating our eggs. It keeps them at the right temperature, okay, and it does this, these little ones do it anyway, because inside here at the top there's these orange cables here, and they have electricity passing through them and they get warm, okay, and in the middle there's a little fan blowing that warm air onto the eggs, okay. Also up behind the fan there's a little thermostat which monitors the temperature inside the incubator and keeps it at exactly 37.5 degrees or whatever I've set it at, to be honest, okay, with a little readout at the top. Okay, but there's also, excuse me sweetie, here there's a little cog with a motor attached to it, and what that does is it sits on this disc. You can see that's where the 7 eggs that go in these machines, oh Missy, that sits in there like that, and every 45 minutes with these machines, okay, can you see that the cog's turning at the top? And that's turning that disc that holds the eggs around. And what that will do when it's in its proper position is it will turn the eggs. Okay, and 45 minutes later, I don't know if you can see that it's now rolling. Well, it would be rolling if it was flat, rolling the eggs in the other direction. So that's really, really important for the eggs to develop properly, that the right temperature, and that they don't just sit there, that they get moved, okay. And it's, I mean, the simple explanation is so the chick doesn't get stuck in the same position inside the egg, but it's to make sure the membranes in the egg grow correctly to allow the developing chick to access all the vitamins, minerals, etc. that it needs as it's developing, because if they don't turn properly, that's just not going to happen, okay. So there's quite a lot of kit in that. There's a microprocessor that's monitoring the temperature, it's monitoring how much it's turning, keeping an eye on things, so it's quite a little bit of high-tech stuff, okay. Now clearly these birds that naturally incubate the eggs are doing all that via instinct, but they also have some physical things about them that helps them to do that, okay. So what we'll have to do is have a little look at Missy, and we'll have a little look at Suki, and Oh, Missy's off. Maybe we'll look at Suki first then. We'll have a look at Missy in a minute. Okay. Come here. So Suki is a silky chicken. Okay, and probably doesn't look like, if you've kept chickens before, just let me check for questions. Yeah. Probably doesn't look much like some of the chickens you'll have seen before. Okay, because silkies have a different kind of feather structure. So it looks a little bit more like fur, but these are feathers. Okay, they've just got no little zips that hold the feather together. If you ever pull the feather apart and pulled it back together, it's a bit like little tiny bits of velcro up the side. Silkies don't have those. Okay, on their wings they're a little bit more like a standard feather structure, but the rest of their bodies, they've got these silky feathers, which is hence why they're called silkies. And they also have pom-pom of feathers on their heads, and I don't know if you can see, come here sausage, that they've got skin on her face. Never worked with children animals. Okay, her skin's actually blue, so around her beak, around the side of her head here, on her legs, it's like a dark kind of grey denimy blue. So they have completely blue skin, they have very silky unusual feathers, and they also have an extra toe on their feet. So if you look here, see there's a little tiny extra toe there. Hang on, let me shuffle. Sitting on the floor is what I do best with chickens. Little tiny extra toe there. Okay, so they have 5 toes on each foot. Okay, but the useful thing about using white silkies in schools, because Suki and Missy are basically essentially my school's chickens. These come round schools with me, and this is what we do. We sit on the floor and we feed the chickens and we talk to them with the children. And this is obviously a bit that we're missing, all of the staff at education are really missing doing at the moment, okay, is that sitting on the floor time and getting young people, children and young people, to realise what engaging and wonderful creatures chickens are. Okay, because that's a really important thing about what we do, is getting young people to connect with farming, connect with where their food comes from, connect with the animals that are producing eggs, that are producing the food that they eat. Because I think that's a really important thing, is that the generation of young people grow up with a connection to their food, so they can become a generation of better informed consumers. But I'm going off piste a little bit there. So if we have a look at Suki's chest here, I don't know if you can see. There we go. There, sweetie. Hang on, let me get you. She's got a patch of skin on her chest where there's very little feathering. It's very, very kind of bald there. It's not at the moment because she's just had a load of new feathers come through, but there's very little feather on this patch of skin here. Okay, let me make sure that you can see that in the camera. It's difficult to keep an eye on things up on the screen there. Okay, so this patch of skin here, all right, where there's very little feather, when she's broody, when she's doing the job of the incubator, when she's incubating, all that feather will go. Okay, so she'll take those feathers out and put them in a nest. So when we say that birds sit on their eggs, they're not sitting on them with their bottoms, they're actually putting this part here, where there's no feathers, where there's kind of naked warm skin, onto their eggs, and that's what's keeping them warm. Okay, so they're brooding their eggs with this warm patch of skin and keeping their eggs warm, so they don't need the thermostat, they don't need the heater, etc. And they turn their eggs when they have a little wriggle round in the nest. They turn their eggs using their feet, okay, just to keep the eggs moving. It's not as scientific, it's not as precise as this, but they do a very, very good job. So when these guys go broody and they want to sit on some eggs, that's how they are keeping them warm, doing all the job of the incubator. They're keeping them warm and they're turning them and keeping them nice and toasty, okay. And then when the chicks hatch, they're also using that same warm patch of skin to keep them warm. I'll just put Suki down for a minute and I'll show you a lovely picture, hang on, of, this is Cindy Pom Pom. This is one of our silky hens. I don't know if you can see, sticking out underneath each wing there is a little chick. Okay, so she's a very good broody, and sticking out underneath each wing there's a little chick that she's keeping warm, again using using the same body heat. So that's Suki the Silky. Come here, madam. Now let's have a little look at Missy Mops. Oh, so this is Missy, also known as, oh, that's rude, Missy. Let's turn you around. An expert shoulder chicken. There we go. Okay, and as you can see, Missy looks probably more like a normal chicken. Okay, she's got a comb on her head, this little red section here, and these little red bits under her chin are called wattles. Okay, and her feathers are a lot more like you would expect. Attitude today, expect bird feathers to look like. Okay, she's not got those silky feathers, she's just got normal bird feathers. Okay, so there's the red comb on her head, and those little red wattles under her chin. Okay, they weren't so clear on Suki. If we look at her feet, she's only got 4 toes on each foot. She hasn't got that little extra one, which is specific to Silkies and some other breeds. Okay, so someone at the door, bear with me. Right, just a postie. Oh, there we go. So, where were we? Oh, feathers and feet. We looked at her feet, we looked at her feathers. Okay, but if we look at her chest again, and she's not broody at the moment, but she has been broody before. Okay, again, she's got a patch of skin on her chest there. It's almost clear on here actually. Let's see if I can shuffle up to the camera. Patch of skin here on her chest where there's very few feathers. Just here. Okay, and when she's broody, like I said, she pulls all those feathers out and puts that nice warm patch of bare skin on her eggs to keep them warm. Now Missy got a bit of a tale to tell. She's not just a fantastic classroom chicken, she's a proper household pet. She was found when she was little. She'd got stuck in a big bucket of water and she was floating around in it, and she was all cold, and my daughter fetched her up to the house, wrapped her in a towel, watched some telly with her, warmed her up, and she kind of stayed up by the house almost like a house chicken for a long time. And then slowly but surely she blossomed and eventually ended up being a champion chicken. I don't know if you can see, that's Missy. That's you, isn't it? On the front cover of Fancy Fowl magazine, because she won this fantastic cup here, which does need a clean. We don't do trophy polishing very often in this house. And this beautiful rosette, for being a champion, the champion auto-sexing breed. And you've heard me mention that with the chicks, in that you can sex them at day old. You can tell whether boys or girls. So the ones with the darker stripe like a chipmunk are the girls, and the one with the lighter ones are the boys. So that group of chickens that all have that feature are called auto-sexing breeds. There's quite a few different breeds of them. Okay, but Missy has the accolade of winning the champion out of all of the ones that were entered. So, ace shoulder chicken, fantastic character, perfect classroom colleague, and champion chicken who wins pretty trophies. Do you like that? Yeah, we like that. So, that's Missy and that's Suki, our classroom hens, okay, who are fantastic to have around, and we'll probably mooch around in the office for a little while and then go back into the shed in the garden. Hang on, where are we going? We're going on my head. Are we going up there? No. Alright then. Okay, so I'm going to pop her back down, give her a little treat for being good. And Suki's pottering around at the back of the office there, and we'll have a little look at how these chicks are doing. So what we've got here are the ones that hatched 2 weeks ago now. We'll have a look at how big they are. And I don't know if any of you are watching the Facebook Live quick one I popped on Friday. We had some more chicks hatch then. Move this camera around. Point it down. Let's take that box off there. There we go. So, these little guys are the ones that hatched 2 weeks ago. Okay, ooh, that's better. You can see those. Okay, we'll get them out and have a look at them in a minute. So there's just those 4 of them that we were going to do the poll for the names. I haven't got around to doing that yet. Okay, and then these little sweeties in here are the little guys that hatched in the live on Friday, and some of you will have seen me move them into the cage. It would have been Saturday night. I think I probably moved them into here, wouldn't it? Okay, so what I thought we'd do is have a little look to compare them. I can take the top off these. They're having a little drink there from the bottle. I don't know if you can see, they've learnt to use the little bottle to drink from. Just keeps, that's my finger, darling. Keeps the shavings a lot drier. Okay, and they've got the little bowl of food there. Again, the other guy's having a nice drink from the bottle. So I thought what might be really interesting is if we get out 2 chicks that are the same and look at how much bigger or smaller they are than they were when they first hatched. So I think what I'll do is I'll look at an amazing quality little photo booth here. And I'm going to take an Andalusian out of here. Come here, sweetie. Whoop, come here. There we go. One of these little guys there. So, these chicks are approximately 2 weeks apart in age. Okay, you can hopefully see, funnily enough, they've both got red leg rings on. The bigger one has got a leg ring on, so we can work out which chick it was for naming. We'll have to sort that out today with one thing and another and snow. It's been really busy up here. And the little guy has got a red leg ring on because that came out from pen 3. So I needed to know which the parents were for that one because of the breeding programs that I'm doing. Okay, but if we look, there's a massive difference in size, so that's 2 weeks difference for you. And there's a biggest difference, I suppose, with feather growth as well. This little guy here has got some little tiny feathers. So it just hatched on Friday, but it's got some little feathers coming here on its wing. Can you see those? Okay, but nothing else anywhere else. Certainly no tail feathers. You see there's nothing growing there at all. But this other guy here, look, little tail feathers, really quite proper wings coming there. Look at those. Okay, quite a lot of growth in the feather there. So the down, which is this fluffy stuff, is what they have to keep them warm when they first hatch. And the down isn't very good at keeping them dry. So if this little guy got wet, or even if this little guy got wet, they wouldn't be able to keep dry at all if they were out in the rain. They'd have to go underneath mum to shelter if there was a problem like that. But when the feathers come through, they have a little gland at the top of their tail, and they get some special oil from that, and they spread it across their feathers, and it makes their feathers pretty good at keeping water off. It's never going to be water off a duck's back, they're not going to be that waterproof, but makes it a lot more waterproof. And then the layer of feathers over the top of the softer, fluffier feathers underneath will keep those really, really warm. But for now, as these don't have full feathers, as they've got obviously big patches of down still on them, they have to stay, well, I'm going to say they have to stay inside. If they were with a hen, she could protect them with her body if they were outside, for example. But these chicks will stay inside here. Normally, of course our chicks hatch in schools and we pick them up at about 10 days old. That's not happening at the moment. So what I tend to do when the weather's better anyway, in spring, later in spring and summer, the chicks will stay in the office here with me in big cages till they're about a week to 10 days old, and then they go into the nursery shed in the garden with really big heat plates in, like you saw in the cage, and they stay warm in there. And when they've got full feathers, when the whole body is covered with a good layer of feathers, so about the time they're 6 to 8 weeks old, then they can more safely go outside. Obviously if it's 6 to 8 weeks old and snowing, I still wouldn't do it. If it's 6 to 8 weeks old and nice spring April weather, then they would go into one of the big boys and girls sheds down at the field. But for now, these guys will be staying in. Normally by this age these guys would be out in the nursery shed in the garden, but the weather is so cold, and we've got -10 forecast for next week, so there's no way these babies are going to be going anywhere near anything outside my office for quite some time, until it's safe and warm enough for them to get outside. Okay, so that's a pair of Andalusians. What I'll do is just pop the little one back in here and get a little Welbar female. There you go, pop her in there. I'm just going to put the camera down there a minute and pop the big guy back in. There we go. Oh. And I'll have a look at the difference between these two. Come on. Oh no, little one, it's alright. There we go, there's a friend. Okay, so here we go. Come here, out of there. Ooh, we've got stuck. There we go. So there's, again, little and large, exactly the same breed, both females. Little Welbar females here, and you can see the difference that 2 weeks makes. Okay, this little female, the Welbars don't feather up as fast as the Andalusians. You can't see any sign of wing feathers on this little girl yet, really. Maybe just starting to peek through there, look. Just starting to peek through. But the older female, definitely looking like she's getting some nice wing feathers through there. No tail really on this one yet, but you can see there's a, a big size difference in them. Okay. So I'm going to pop them back in because, like I said, it's not particularly warm today. Still snow on the ground again outside. I've had enough snow now. Snowiest winter we've had up here in a long time. I'm just going to put that back in there. Come here, little man. Where'd you go? What I thought we'd do is, if I just leave that camera sorted. Okay, got those little ones. I'm a bit high up there. Little ones mooching around. You can see that they're healthy and active. Okay, some of them are going underneath the heat plate for a little warm up. Most of them out having a drink, having something to eat. This is what we want to see in nice healthy chicks. Suki and Missy chilling out in the back of the office there. So next week is the big week then. Next week is hatching week for the eggs that we put in the incubator together. Okay, there we go. I'm going to be doing the Facebook Live next week. Let's get this camera to stay still. And that Facebook Live will start at some point in the morning. We have got, like I said, really terrible weather forecast for next week, so it might not have as much input from me as I like. I just want to make sure the sheep and everybody are okay. But the Facebook Live will be next Wednesday. Probably start a little bit earlier in the morning. I'm going to try and nip in and out if there's something hatching, and I'll talk you through how they hatch. But again, have a look at the other Facebook Lives that we've done, and if you have a look at the top of the Education Facebook page, there is a link to the GoFundMe page. Obviously this is the kind of stuff that I would normally be doing in schools. Due to circumstances, most schools are operating on very limited numbers and are just moving their bookings further and further along in the spring, or we can't do them at all. And the conservation work and looking after these animals costs lots of money despite whether I'm in schools or not. So if you can want to help towards that and donate towards that, that would be fantastic. And otherwise I'll see you next Wednesday.